John balanced the shotgun in his right hand and curled his index finger through the trigger guard. As he neared the stall door, he saw that deep grooves had been gouged into the wood along the top, as if something with extremely sharp claws had scrambled over the hinged partition in its haste to get to the cow. John hesitated for a moment. The sounds of ripping and tearing and grating ceased to let up, and the farmer found himself wondering just what sort of creature could possess such an insatiable hunger. There seemed to be no pause in the intruder's appetite. The ugly noises failed to slow down for even a second, instead growing in their ravenous fury. The farmer took a deep breath, bracing himself for the worst. But when he finally gathered the nerve to step up to the gate and illuminate the stall with the glow of the kerosene lantern, John Haskell was still not prepared for the horrible scene he laid witness to. Buttercup was no longer the healthy Holstein that had provided milk, butter, and calves for the Haskell family for the past 7 years. Now she was only a torn and bloody carcass that had been ripped open and disemboweled. John glanced over at the cow's head, which lay a good 5 feet from its mutilated body. Buttercup's glassy eyes stared dumbly at him, bulging from one final moment of shock and agony, but blinded by death. John then turned his startled gaze to the horrid thing that had been responsible for the slaughter. At first, he was certain that it was some sort of monstrous dog, but the flickering light of the lantern dispelled that first impression. The creature was about as tall as a year-old calf, yet long and lean of body and limb, perhaps 7 feet from snout to tail. Its neck was serpentine, as was its triangular head, which dove deeply into the cow's open belly like a piston, pulling and tearing with powerful jaws. And there was one other point that John couldn't ignore. The creature that had killed Buttercup was not covered with fur or hair, but with a gleaming coat of jet-black scales. Looking at it, John Haskell was reminded of the sleek and fluid body of a black racer. The farmer swallowed dryly, feeling a little dizzy at the sight of so much blood. It was that insignificant sound that finally alerted the creature to his presence. With a cross between a snarl and hiss, the monster withdrew its head from the carcass and turned its attention toward the man at the gate. It regarded him silently for a moment, and that was when John saw the thing's eyes clearly for the first time. They were greenish gold in color, and the pupils were narrow slits like those of a snake, rather than round like a warm-blooded animal. Contempt burned in those reptilian eyes, a contempt that was plainly evil in nature, and it snapped its jaws as it drew a ragged string of bloody tissue down its gullet. Something that looked like a mixture of saliva and snot dripped from its yellowed fangs, which were razor-sharp and a good 3 to 4 inches in length. John simply stood and stared at the creature, paralyzed for an instant by the dark malice that flared in its golden eyes. The double-barrel shotgun felt heavy in his hand, and he considered putting it to use, but secretly knew that such an action would be in vain, as well as downright foolhardy. Just looking at that coat of black armor, John knew that a blast of buckshot would rattle right off it, with about as much effect as spring rain on a tin roof. The load of double-aught would scarcely be out of the barrel before the creature would react, leaping over the gate of the stall after him. Carefully, John stepped back a couple of paces. The monster continued to glare at him, its toothy jaws curling into a sinister grin. "You just go on back to your eating," the farmer said softly. "Finish what you came to do and then get." But even as he said it, John knew that the creature would get when it was good and ready to, and not a moment before.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it. at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.